That did it. Yeah, with the little live symbol, so that's an improvement.
Hmm.
Jordan agrees.
Sorry.
That's 1 minute early.
Hang on, I'm looking for the URL, unless you've got it. Because I don't see it yet. Thank you. Because I was looking at the output last time so that I could keep track of what was actually on the screen, and I can't see it yet.
That's not counting my sweet Twitch runs and our fireside chat and last week's. Yeah.
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 I have the key. I have the key, so I'm good. So let me just update this. Let me update that. That should do it. And let me update this. Oh, wait, I forgot to check a box. Hang on. Please stand by.
Podcast people, where is your past? How long will it last?
And let me just throw that switch.
For podcast people. Terrible.
Sir.
Thanks.
That should do it.
Oh, good God, you did it.
Many things.
Thank you. It's done. It is done.
Clickety click, 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 clickety click, click, click. It's not me for a change. Maybe some Polish toasties.
Or you can just kind of like drag them into the outbound window.
The Firefox feed. Wow, it isn't.
Hey.
It's very zoomed.
Yeah.
Hold on a second, guys.
Yeah, just
Holding.
zoom out.
Zoom out.
Unenhance.
I forgot it was set to like 200.
Pause here for some beverage. Yeah, we had a hard enough time. I don't want to finish that sentence.
Yeah, we had a hard enough time just functioning properly.
Yep, that's a good way to say it.
So let me not zoom this in so unbelievably high. Real quick. Okay.
The scene on the screen, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Should be green in all the ways.
The scene on the screen. This should probably be good right here. Still a little bit big. it might work. Get the first story up and see how that looks. Probably looks bad. Probably looks absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
that looks fine.
Sebastian's hair is terrible tonight, which is why he can't be on. Oh, and you can see yourself. You don't sound particularly loud or soft.
Yeah.
Yep, maybe you should roll. Maybe you should do a little roll in.
Gotta find that link for the name.
The no-shows?
No notes.
Um,
Give me the links to no show. Oh, there they are. Never mind.
oh, I was just going to say.
Never mind. Give me a second.
Oh, there's Josh. Podcast.
I added one.
I'll say you did.
I don't think we meant the same thing.
Probably not. It is not July 30th. Doesn't mean my birthday would be tomorrow, and nobody is getting me anything for my birthday tomorrow.
No, it's
No,
not.
if it was July 30th. Yeah, everybody does. You know, I don't advertise it on Facebook like everybody else does. Yes, ma'am.
Man, is that the burger? Oh my god.
It's a sexy
Burger's
burger.
fantastic.
Oh my god. It's amazing.
Twitter.
That's impressive.
He's good burger. What are we, 520? No, 595.
Yeah.
520 is old. 596.
That's quite a burger there.
Thank you.
It's also not quite centered on.
Oh, here
my
we go.
Display. Yes.
Always a critic.
There we go. It needs to be seen in all of its glory.
To be believed.
Yes.
I don't know. I thought it came out pretty nice and looks really juicy.
Mm-hmm.
And the cheese and how all melty, and the chipotle ketchup with shiny jalapeno and the bacon. Oh yeah. They call it the naughty. The naughty.
Mm.
What's the burger place called?
Born in a barn.
Born in a Barn.
No, Mira, I was not an August boy. I was a July boy. Do. All right. So, are we ready?
Yeah, let's roll.
Okay.
Roll out.
3, 2. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. Today is Wednesday, August 26, 2020, and this is podcast number 596. Yes, I can't believe that we have gotten this far after. When did you guys start podcasting? 80, 90, 07? 06?
I
No, not
something
1997.
terrifying.
Yeah, like 2006,
Something
2007 started out with Jeremy. No, it started out with Ryan and Lee, and then Jeremy came in,
Yep.
and then I came in, and Alan came in, and Ken came in. Damn, it all went downhill after Ken showed up.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then
but
we got
anyway. If you've noticed, we've been a little bit on hiatus. Jim has been experiencing some health issues and a few other things, and probably have a little bit more news about that later. But for right now, we're just moving along as if things are normal. And because this is 2020, absolutely nothing is normal. So we're going with the flow.
We've had
And
a
of
lot of
course
practice
you-
ignoring things.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you should do that to a point, but eventually, when a 20-foot surge comes into your house, you need to do something about it. So those in the areas that could be flooded down the Gulf Coast, please evacuate because it's about to get real. Anyway, Sebastian's video is not working, which, I mean, it kind of does, but it just looks bad. And so we're not showing him. So he'll just be that disembodied voice. I mean, if he was a real pro, he would just be recording his output and then splicing that in when he talks. But of course, that sounds like a lot of work. Yeah.
You could add yourself in post. You
Well,
hit the record
there you
button.
go. The voice of unreason.
Are you going to be
Okay.
reasonable? All right.
Mm. Josh.
Jeremy.
Brett.
Exactly.
This is like the first time our names have actually been on the screen anyway, so it's probably the first time we haven't needed to do that.
We have a podcast that is, well, at least we used to. Differently abled individuals. Yeah. You've been sufficiently chastised, so let's move on. It seems like there's been quite a bit of news because we have something exciting coming up next week. I haven't heard anything officially. I don't know if Sebastian has. Nobody ever talks to me anyway because I'm kind of a bore. But we know that September 1st, NVIDIA is going to be having a little event, and Jensen is going to be talking to us about things. And today they released a video that talked about thermals and thermal designs on current and upcoming stuff, and they had a few sneak peeks of what looks to be the RTX 3090, if that is correct, and how they have adjusted for the heat issues that we see with modern GPUs. And they're one of the more interesting things that they were talking about is if you did not have any kind of heat sink on there on the silicon and you were running it, and the amount of energy it's pulling and dissipating, the surface of that would go to something like 720C, which of course would melt aluminum, and nobody wants that. So they do a lot of things to help control heat, and they went through this video and kind of showed the development of stuff from the very, very simple fin coolers that were initially on. I mean, it was essentially glued on the Revone 28. GeForce 2 stuff had that little, it looks like a pizza box cooler. It had a fan that was, surrounded by metal, and it had no fins. And then we saw, the increase in fin density and of course the thermal density that the chips were able to push out, and it was just a really interesting kind of video to watch. It's about 8 minutes long, and they have a couple of sneak peeks in there. Like they showed the 12-pin power connector that originally we all thought was a hoax, but apparently is not a hoax. And Seasonic, I believe, last week accidentally released some pictures of the 2x8 pin to 12 pin PCIe adapter. And the thing is a lot smaller than 2x8s, but it delivers as much power, obviously. And it's just a different way of doing things that NVIDIA seemed to believe that needed to be done. And so the diagram they had of it is kind of interesting because it's like off-centered and tilted, and it's on a side that you wouldn't expect. But we'll see how that actually shows up once the 3090 is actually released. Did any of you other guys watch this video, and what are the other things that you took from it?
I'm just curious if there is anything other than size to make them switch to the pin and go with this angled connection. I can't think of any reason of going from a pair of 8s down to a 12 or a pair of 6s, if you want to look at it that way, offers any electrical benefits. The only thing I can think is that this is pretty much the only way they could jam it in there without compromising either the thermals or the overall sort of physical stability of the design.
I think there's going to be some challenges with doing some wire routing on that 12-pin angled connector. Yeah, not too sure how people are going to deal with that. And the airflow, I guess the only thing we can really see is the way they've got some of the airflow routed through the card. Like there's going to be some through routing. And a lot of people have set up their systems in such a way that obviously their card is potentially backed right up against the side of a fairly sizable CPU cooler. So I think there's going to be some challenges there as well.
Someone's doing something behind me.
Hear Sebastian. See if people can hear him. I don't know.
Are you back, Sebastian?
Look at this. Look at this
there were people
connector.
That cannot.
Oh, there are people that can't hear me?
Correct.
There weren't.
No. Well, I was muted until a moment ago. This is kind of crazy, but look, if you look carefully at the board, if this is not just some sort of intentional cutaway, some of those suggestions, like maybe there's a separate, like a daughter board for just the RT cores or something. Maybe there's a reason for this angled connector. What if more is going on than we know?
Well, clearly,
Like
there's
they had
plenty left to learn.
You know,
True.
well, think
Yes.
of think of how they're currently mounting that. And it's either sideways or out the back. And if you do it this way, the way they kind of have it mechanically stressed, that does make a little bit of sense. You think of how they plug it in, and it's got that angle, and so you don't have that, extreme on either end. It's just you can wrap it then around the card and into wherever it goes. So it's I think it's just a different way to skin a cat, and I don't think that it's. The only thing that I would worry about is the, okay, here's your PCB and it's mounted on this, and you've got to plug it in this way. The end here would have a lot more pressure because you've only got a small amount of space that it's anchored to, and you've got a long thing out here. So when you press, it's going to have a lot of flex that way. But we'll see how they engineer that thing.
I wouldn't be surprised if you might have a heat sink or at least some of the fins sticking down in that area. in a sort of V-shaped cutout.
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
where traditionally the top mount?
Well, that
Yeah.
V-shaped
Gone.
cutout is where the fan blows through.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so they've got two fans, one on each side, in different places, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they actually get airflow and which way the fans are blowing, or if they're sucking, or what. But it's yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, weird, wild, wacky stuff.
And there were some other images or pictures that someone had just posted in the Discord. I'm kind of scrolling back, looking for them now, whether there's anything other interesting about those.
No, that was dirty anime. You don't want to click on that.
Oh,
No,
yeah, that's true. No, don't. You can't do that. But there was some.
Hmm.
There was some stylized breakaways of like where the card and where the cooler and their X crossover kind of fin arrangement was stacked and different framings of that. That looked somewhat legitimate.
yeah, and the back plate that holds the majority of the heatsink to the GPU, they redesigned that to be I guess more tensile strength, so they can decrease the size of the springs that they typically use to keep the correct amount of pressure on the GPU and the heatsink. It's it's a lot of they hire mechanical engineers for reasons, and this is it.
Well, I
And
love
I mean,
the
they're-
part of the video where they were shaking the system to
Yeah.
see whether or not, and at one point one of them did fail and took out the PCIe slot.
I like the history of their graphics card cooler designs. That's a nice journey. A little out of sequence though, but hey.
Was that the morphing one where they morphed them all together?
Yeah, they're just like
It's a
going
980.
from,
It's a 2060. It's a
just showing the different
Sure.
designs, like the current design, and then it goes blank, and then then what? Then interesting
according
3D
to the-
graphics of a GPU and lights and an industrial designer.
Yeah. According to the pictures that have been leaked, that 3090 is a massive, massive card.
yeah.
That thing's got to
Yeah.
weigh like 4 pounds. And they have a special spring-loaded back plate that supposedly allows it to move a little bit more
Yeah.
without breaking things. I don't know how it's all going to work, but boy, it's going to be interesting.
I hope they send us two for testing so we can test one springs and not on the other one.
And
Oh,
when we're
yeah.
talking about the size of the card here, just in case, for the listeners that may kind of join later, this is a completely honest triple slot card based upon the leaks, and then some a little bit. So
Yeah, and I mean it's vertical and horizontal
yeah, much taller.
is
as well.
massive as compared to just even the RTX 2080 Ti. 2080 Ti is still a pretty big card, but this thing is a good 40% larger by area.
Did you see the guy who had superimposed supposedly the two leaked
Mhm.
pictures and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
translucently put the 2080 Ti over it, and it just
Yeah.
dwarfed it all
Just
the way around.
ate it.
Sideways. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there was somebody in the Discord that says, and I counted the pixels, and I'm just going to let that sentence go there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a bet now. Who will take a bet that an AIB will come out with a 4-fan card? 4 fans? No?
3 for sure. I don't know about 4.
Or I
Oh,
just wondered who would
maybe
go crazy.
maybe we'll have like 5 small fans.
All you gotta
two
do
in
is
the
get to
corners,
4.
one big in the middle.
Didn't say size. All I got to do is get to 4.
We'll call it the Quint.
I did not. I did not watch it.
Yeah.
I can imagine the ridiculous.
We've actually fit 1,000 fans on this card.
Stop it.
Dude, it was the Evans and Sutherland. Yeah. ENS. I remember when super tiling was a big thing and people thought that this was going to be the answer to GPU scaling. And it really was extremely, I know we're getting off track here, but it was extremely niche, and that the flight simulator people that were developed for, they optimized for it and it worked well, but normal gaming, super tiling was no bueno. But that's history. That's 2004. Clamoring. So anyway, with all the terrible things happening in the world today, I thought I would take a small break, and I understand the travails and issues that others are going through. And so I thought I'd try to spread a little light into the world by purchasing a burger and sharing the joy of a burger that, you can buy with money, and you can have 15 minutes of peace and quiet and really enjoy that. And so this was the burger. It's called the Naughty, and it's totally naughty. It's 2 patties. Go ahead.
What's so naughty about it?
I don't know. It's
secret
2
ingredient?
patties. It
gives you a
American
Woody.
cheese. Yeah. Bacon, jalapeno, and then chipotle ketchup. And it's just fantastic. It's a good thing.
And you won't have to eat again until Thursday.
No, I usually typically fast for 24 hours after I eat that because I'm just so full. So yeah, burgers.
Awesome.
They may bring around world peace, hopefully.
One day.
Yeah. Have we talked enough about NVIDIA? I mean, because we're going to be talking about them a lot next week. And we'll finally get some answers to our questions. And what the thing is that I'm real curious about is going to be availability, because we've all seen leaks. But these leaks have been very, very, very constrained. And so that means that board partners have not been building these up so far and getting them packaged and ready to go, because otherwise the leaks would be tremendous. And so it kind of seems to me that Jensen is cutting them off at the pass and announcing this, and then I honestly think it could be 2 months before we see actual cards hit the street, because the silence around this is pretty impressive. I mean, Silverstone was the leak with the power connector, but it's awfully easy to develop a 2x8 pin to 12 pin power connector. It's not too much science involved in that. You've got to have the correct gauge of wires and going to the correct place, and have a plastic molding injection machine make the correct connectors. But other than that, we haven't heard anything. So I think it may be a while, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope so, because I've been saving up my money. And as Sebastian said, Microsoft Flight Simulator is crying desperately in my machine to run faster. And it could be a while before we actually see these cards for sale. So closing thoughts?
At least it'll be affordable.
And available.
The rumors of 3060, 3070, not too bad in terms of price. We'll see if that actually hits that, or when they actually release those smaller cards, because my initial impression was we would see the 3880 and the 3090 announced, and those would be the initial ones, and then the entire stack from 2070 Super and below remains intact and at those price points.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see, I guess.
I definitely think that they're not going to shoot the best they can, because they're going to wait for the response, and then they're going to make sure to top them pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to get you baited.
No.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was like amateur hour with them going like, it's this price. No, it's this price. It has this much memory. No, it's this speed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sebastian, if you can hear me, your audio is not going out.
Ah, damn it! You told him.
I did.
Sebastian.
Unless you're sharing your
breaking.
screen with like an overlay.
Oh, that's
of a video,
right. Yeah, because
then,
if you're
then you got
it
audio.
says you are muted if you're not sharing the screen.
You have to share your screen.
Share your screen. Share your screen.
How'd you fix it last time?
Well, it's
We'll
when
put
you
the
were
burger up.
showing the overlays, right? Like you zoomed in and you were showing the video from NVIDIA. Then you could hear him. Yep. That's Skype.
Like, okay, here's the overlay thing. What's different
Okay,
about
so now
this?
start talking, and I bet you they can hear you now that JPR is on.
Yeah, it's because of what sources are selected and what aren't. This whole thing is a freaking mess just because of the way that.
It's almost like the producer of this software is deprecating it and doesn't give a flying about how it performs anymore.
I guess I could just be voice of the website, but this is annoying. I guess we could just pause for a second. What I should do, really, is disconnect my camera from the Skype feed and just put myself in the actual podcast.
I'm listening to the feedback from YouTube right now, and you don't sound that bad. You sound fine. Go with it. No, you're good. I can hear you.
No, but when you flip this way, you're probably gone. Now we have to wait for the delay. But oh, now that we can hear you, sound perfectly and now gone. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Sorry about this, everyone. I'm trying to figure out why this is happening because everything else is the same. Quadcast, HyperX. Oh, okay. Well. Okay, I bet it's fixed now.
Well, let's find out.
Because I'm not especially intelligent, apparently.
Well, no, gone again, but that's too close.
No, yeah, I gotta wait a second.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
Yeah. See, here's the problem with having a source called HyperX and a source called Quadcast.
You need the HyperQuad X cast.
Because they're the same thing, but they're two different ends of it. One of them is what's going out to my headphones. The other one is what's going in from the mic input. Anyway, my local recording has everything.
Yeah, so really,
the stream doesn't.
Going to be able to only enjoy the first 15 minutes of this if they go and watch the video later. So yeah, come back for that.
Yeah, come back and watch
we were
the
standing
replay.
here, sitting here, looking at each other, going like, "Mm-hmm."
I was super confused. I'm looking at this and
silence.
saying, "What's the problem here? I can see myself just fine. I can see the levels going up and down, and yeah." Okay, that's too bad. Sorry about that. They had no choice. Once Zoom happened, they had to start offering multi-window. But, yeah. Yes, continue with the train wreck. No. No, no. Really?
No, he's
Okay.
just being himself.
Damn it. Okay, because Really? Okay.
Oh, you bastards!
He did it.
Wait, tell me the truth. Can you hear me twice, or is this fine? Because I literally have both
You're fine here.
sides turned on at the same time. Like it's got my
I-
direct
I got you.
monitor.
I got you twice.
Okay, we're saying it's good.
Yeah, that's all good.
Okay.
It was good
Oh,
before.
you
Let me turn this
bastards!
off.
And
Nope.
Discord.
Whatever it is you titch, don't touch it again.
Okay, no, I see what's going on. Okay,
Yep. Live TV is fun.
Josh, please continue. Let's talk
All
about
right,
John
so,
Petty.
Apparently, Jay Petty and group released the latest standalone video card results of the quarter, and NVIDIA is, not surprisingly, sitting at 80%. They are the Intel of the graphics market.
Speaking of Intel, why are they on this list at all?
Because they sell a lot of iGPUs.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
I
you
mean,
scroll down,
they kind of rule the roost in terms of mobile graphics.
let me scroll down a little bit because this.
Yes,
doesn't
and you'll
make any
see a
sense.
0 there in the
Here's-
discrete GPU.
Yeah, discrete GPU. For some reason, they're on the charts. Like, yeah, I know they told you.
Well, I mean, there are a
good
lot of
GPU.
i7s, 740s
Yeah.
still hanging around.
Yes.
Yes,
Exactly.
I have 2 of them myself.
Yeah. No, and not only that's not real, but the Knightsbridge stuff, they do have product out, but it's not great. I can't remember if it's Knightsbridge or one of the later ones, but yeah, it's out there, but in very, 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 very small numbers.
Like it was only about 6 or 7 years ago that you saw Matrox and Sys disappear, just from old legacy machines still out there running.
Yeah. So yeah, NVIDIA is making some serious bank, as we noticed from their earnings 2 weeks ago, last week. Can't remember, but they're up to almost $4 billion, and next quarter they're expecting around $4.3 billion in revenue. Now that's still kind of a far cry from Intel's 17 to 18 billion per quarter, but it's still much higher than AMD's. What were they? 2.2, 2.3? I mean, they that was their absolute record for quarterly income.
Well, Matrox
And,
did give him a nice bump there. What was it, like 15% or
Oh yeah.
percent or something like that? But yeah.
Yeah, Matrox. They're still in business. Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, they're selling. Anyway, yeah, it's all confusing. But yeah, graphics market, it's about ready to get shaken up. And it's about time, because it's been 2 years since the RTX 2080 has been released.
That
And if you had
doesn't-
spent the $1,100 on the RTX 2080 Ti when it was first released, you would have gotten a lot of mileage from that card. I mean, you know, not is the word amortize or no, depreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it didn't really.
hasn't
Could
it
you
hasn't
almost get that?
depreciated at all.
Could you almost
Well,
get that today?
for the same price, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's insane. Yeah. So yeah, there was no depreciation in market value, but you know, personal value from when you originally bought it and put it in, then you know it kind of paid for itself, because it was the fastest performing card for 2 years, and there was nothing that really even came close. So I think people may be taking that to heart, looking at the 3090. I'm not taking it to that heart, but there's going to be a 3080 and a 3070. And I think that they're going to get a lot more people seriously taking a look at that, rather than, well, I'm going to wait 6 months and see where prices go. Well, where AMD is at and what they've showed for the last several years, that doesn't seem to be the case. So yeah, it's going to be interesting times and what people do with their money. So Jeremy, does the world need a 1080p 360 hertz monitor? And you got to sing this to what the world needs now.
Is a PG
refresh,
259 QN
fresh.
A 24.5-inch monitor. Yeah, this, and I get this a lot when I'm posting reviews, because at this point you have to choose. Do you want 4K or do you want high refresh rates?
I was hoping you weren't going to say feedback on your singing voice.
Well, no, I already know that that's technically a voice, but not much singing. So, I mean, the idea that, yeah, it's a 1080p monitor and a reasonable size. 24.5 inches works for 1080p. If you go much higher than that, you got to have young eyes. The idea that you've got a 360 hertz top rate is interesting. Like, I am sure that there are people out there, because according to NVIDIA, someone's kill to death ratio increased by 4% over when they were playing on a 240 hertz solution. So obviously it makes you better. The real question is, why in the hell did they include NVIDIA's 3D vision on it? Because this actually does have 3D vision on it.
Well, because they can. It's an easy thing to implement. I mean, especially if you got 360 hertz to deal with, you can do the back and forth thing with the 3D really, really, really easy. That's a firmware and driver thing that you can implement quickly.
So is this what it is? Is that it's actually 180 hertz per and what do they call the active display goggles back in the day?
Shutters.
Yeah.
So LCD shutter screens.
So you're actually, if you had, for whatever reason, a 3D vision capable game or movie, you could, and found some of these old glasses, there might actually be a reason to have a 360 hertz monitor. Other than that, I mean, this is just bragging rights. It's going to be gorgeous. The response time on it is going to be obscene. And it is an IPS as well. So that does help, because usually when you want the insane stuff, you go with a TN. Yeah, you lose a little bit of quality in the darks and that, but it's fast. It's fast.
I did quite a bit of research of this stuff back in the late 90s, and I had released an article, 30 versus 60 frames per second and beyond. And I was dealing with a lot of the technology at the time, which was all CRT. I mean, there were very, very few LCD stuff. And so I had talked about, actual differences, what the eyes can see, how we actually perceive this stuff. And it came down to a couple of things. The human eye is really, really, really sensitive. I mean, it's not the greatest eye in the world in terms of overall kind of quality. I mean, it's not like, Hawk Vision, where you can see a mouse 150 yards away. And but at the same time, we do a lot of things really, really well with our visual subsystem. So we can see color, but we also have, more and more black and white in the periphery. But our brain takes the information from, more of our fovea and applies color and stuff to the sides. But our black and white receptors are a lot more sensitive than the color ones, just because all that is doing is saying, here's intensity of the photons hitting the cell versus here's the intensity of the photons hitting the cell, as well as what the color is, and the wavelength that these receptors are receiving. And when you really start digging down into it, our eyes aren't really holding us back as much as you think, because a long time people said, well, you can't see anything past 30 frames per second. Well, that doesn't take into effect how we actually perceive, photons and wavelengths. So yes, you can see well beyond 30 frames per second, because we live in an analog world. It's not individual slices that somehow we are perceiving. It is a constant stream of light into our eyes. And so what basically it turns out to be is, the more you look at something and the more you practice with something, in this case, higher and higher frame rate monitors, you're training your brain and your visual cortex to be able to notice the small differences as compared to somebody who worked in an office in the 80s and only had a 60 hertz CRT that was green, and then they play just as well if you threw them on a 3D game at 60 hertz as 360, because they just wouldn't be able to. Their brain doesn't know how to process that kind of information. And so, yes, there will be improvements with people using this the more they actually use it, because you're training your brain to get more of the subtle differences that your eyes are receiving.
As well as compensate for the latency as well. So you can sort of get trained for that.
When you get into how the eyes are actually, the brain's making up most of what you see, then you get really complex.
Well, it's interpolation. We interpolate.
Neuroethology is it's a complex subject, and we still are learning a tremendous amount of stuff about it. But you can say basically more is going to be better, and it also depends on the individual that's doing the work. So if you're a high-end first-person shooter, gamer, competitive, you are going to benefit from this type of screen, just because it's what you're good at, it's what your brain's good at, it's what you focus at, that's what you train at. Somebody who plays Counter-Strike for a couple hours on the weekends,
like that guy,
they're going to have a small bump up, but until they really train in front of that and take the hours and just allow their brain to kind of, plasticize a little bit and wrap itself around what it's seeing, they're not going to see a huge difference as compared to somebody who's just going to take the time and play a lot at this screen. But of course, a person who's been playing at 360 hertz goes down to a 60 hertz monitor. They're going to just melt. It's awful. It's really, yeah. So, yeah, a little bit of neuroethology.
Studies done comparing professional gamer types for Twitch games and fighter pilots, and found that essentially the visual cortex works the same way. And you take it to a normal person, and the two higher ends will be, we saw this thing shoot across the screen, and roughly give you a description of it, even though it was only there for a tiny percentage of a second. Whereas a normal person like us, there was nothing that flashed through, period.
Yeah, that was actually a test that the U.S. Air Force had done. And they would flash an image onto a screen in a darkened room, and they would do 1/60th of a second, 1/20th of a second, and up to 1/240th of a second. Just one frame flash up there. And the fighter pilots, the guys who would train this, they were able to identify that image that flashed very, 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 very quickly. And so, yeah, it's again an idea of training. And I think that the Skywalker Ranch people, the ILM, they also did some testing with motion simulators that were at 30, 60, and 120. And they did a roller coaster ride, and they tested multiple people out and doing it. And the higher the frame rate, the more of a visceral, I guess there was higher incidence of motion sickness involved. And so they figured that it was a test that showed that the higher the frame rate, the more realistic it seemed, and the people had a more visceral reaction to it. And so these are things that I had talked about in the late 90s, and it's nice that we're finally getting to the point where it's 60 hertz monitors from 2005 to 2015. That was what you had. You may have 75 hertz ones out there, but now we're finally getting to the point where they're taking these things seriously, and the technology is improving, that we can have these higher frame rate and make a more visceral experience for those who are using them.
Can I just add as a brief footnote to what we were talking about earlier, that 3D vision is kind of not supported anymore. It hasn't been since, I don't know, a year ago. So it's a little odd to me that would be advertised on a brand new product, unless this product was in development before the EOL. But that was August 2019.
We have a shitload of these modules lying around, and we don't know what to do with them. I'll throw them on this thing.
So it's not officially supported by NVIDIA at all. They EOL'd it, but you can buy it in a brand new monitor. Although we've been hearing about 360 hertz monitors coming, I was confused when I saw this news because I thought we'd already heard about this monitor before. Maybe it was like last CES or something, or maybe Computex 2019. So a lot of stuff got delayed, obviously. Maybe it's just late. But
I see you dug up the
Yeah, it
30
was
versus-
CES.
I did.
That's funny. Yeah, that was one of my most plagiarized articles ever. I mean, people literally copied and pasted that into their websites. I mean, at least some of them kept my name on it, which was nice. But there were other guys that I talked to them. It's like, you did word for word. Well, not exactly.
Look
It's
at
like,
this,
dude.
though. It's so dense.
Changed an adjective.
Joshua Walrath. What is this? It's 30 versus 60 frames per
1990.
second. And this is not your site either. The one I linked to.
No.
It's just somebody who
my-
copied and pasted the whole thing.
Correct. Well, I mean, PenStarSys.com doesn't really exist anymore, so it was where it was originally posted, but a lot of people grabbed that and made it their own. Anyway, I guess we should move on. We've
So I
talked
just linked to it, and then Ryan made you his own.
something like that. Yeah, he paid me, and I enjoyed that, so thank you. Are motherboard makers dropping phase doublers? Who's taking this?
Inquiring minds want to know, Sebastian.
Yeah, what's happening out
It's
there? What's
interesting to
happening with
think
the phase
about
doubler?
this. It was OC3D who had this exclusive story about it, and they did their own research apparently into this, and they said basically they had confirmed that there were two models, 2 gigabyte motherboards that are dropping phase doublers because they are not available. So
What?
if
What do you mean?
yeah, it's due to a shortage, a doubler chip shortage. They actually had to revise the design. So there's going to be a B550 version 2 of the Aorus Elite and Aorus Elite AX that are not phase doubled, which is,
Did they
interesting.
change the part number to indicate the lack of phase doublers?
That would be the V2.
Okay.
Or did
Well,
they
as
did
in
they change the
version
design so that they don't have
Don't
phase
need 'em.
doublers?
Why is
because
this emoji
they're-
thing on? Hold on, sorry. Why is the emoji
You should be
thing
sorry.
going? What is happening here? I think this happens.
You have to
it-
float over it to make it go away.
Yeah, you
there
can,
we go.
You must acknowledge it.
It wants me to react. I don't want reactions.
Please insert your emote here.
So yeah, that was interesting because and this could affect pricing too. Like these V2 versions, and people are saying, they might ask, why is this like $20 or $30 more than the last one? Because it's like 16 individual power phases now, and not.
So what you're saying is that it's actually improved.
Yeah.
It's
But it's
electrically better.
This is the thing about it. Like, okay, doublers have such a bad name, and if you read comments, if you read, there have been many articles written about this sort of thing on a very technical level. I feel like it gets very technical very fast because the people who really know this stuff are basically engineers, and they start
Let's
getting
go to
into
the comments on your last motherboard review
yeah.
for somebody's
Yeah.
layman's understanding of VRMs.
right. It's basically if there's a doubler anywhere on the board, then they say the power delivery is crap. Like the power delivery doesn't count. Essentially, that's the message I always seem to get from people. So
Yeah, but it does count. It's just that the problem with power doublers is there is a little bit more inherent latency in adjusting to power draw from the CPU. Other than that, it does its job. And so these new ones, if they don't have the doublers in there but still have the same amount of phases, it's going to be less latency when you have these draw spikes from the CPU. And so that means, in theory, you're going to get slightly better performance when you really load down quickly your CPU. But if you're running things like Cinebench, it initially gets that draw up, but then they respond, and you're at that constant state from then on out.
Well, Josh, don't we have the V-droop compensation to kind of play around with that to some extent? What is that doing?
Yeah. So it's not nearly the issue, I believe, that many people feel it is.
It's literally a latency issue. It's not like there aren't 16 individual MOSFETs on the board. It's that the PWM controller chip, it might be a cheaper one that only addresses maybe 8 channels or a maximum of 10, and you have 16 on the board, so then you have to use doublers. So it's 8, and each phase is then controlling 2. Each channel of the PWM controller is controlling 2 phases via a doubler. And while that could be okay, the problem is that there's additional latency, however minimal, introduced through each of these ICs that's added to the chain. That's my rudimentary understanding of this, and maybe totally off, but
it's kind of what
issue.
I said.
Yeah.
But anyway,
this is the second time I've heard it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can just skip that part then.
Next up, maybe don't update Firefox on Android. I don't know what any of this is about.
They changed the engine. You might remember that Firefox went a little bit weird. God, I don't even remember how many months ago. But they switched to Gecko from the engine that they were using before, and then bragged that, we're breaking free from the monopoly that is Google, because the only other thing that exists is their particular Blink engine.
WebKit.
WebKit. But
oh, come on.
Some people don't even know what that is. So apparently, and it's been Europe that found out about it because it was rolled out there first, but with a brand new engine, that means that just about every single third-party extension that you could possibly want is dead, defunct, ceased to be, shuffled up the mortal coil, as it were. So there's about 8 that still work. And of course, Mozilla, as frustrating as it is, takes the reasonable position of, well, these are all third-party extensions. We can't fix them. It's the person that did it. But at the same time, it would have been nice to let them play with it a little bit more before they made this big switch on the mobile to ensure that, at least some of it would still work. On the other hand, some other things went wrong. There's a bunch of users that are getting crashes when they're surfing DuckDuckGo, when they're searching on Google, or my personal favorite, when they're reporting a crash via the help menu to Mozilla.
There's something meta about that.
It's just wonderful. I'm sorry we can't process this crash report because it crashed. So hold off on updating. It should be rolling out tomorrow in North America. You won't be able to go back. And with mobile apps, good luck finding the legacy version. So if you see Firefox 79 popping up on your Android phone, you might want to just say no for now.
Oh, just to reiterate, this is Android, not just...
Yes, Android only.
Okay.
Yeah. iOS is doing other interesting, fun things. Like, if you haven't used Premiere in a bit, Light Show, don't. Just freaking... Lightroom, sorry. I don't recall the suite too much, other than I personally hate it. Yeah, because it just sort of just decided to delete all of your photos permanently, and if you haven't backed them up somewhere else, they gone.
It didn't happen to everybody, but it did happen to some people and made them very sad.
The fact that it happened to anyone is unacceptable.
It spread a lot of sadness to some people.
Where is the redundancy
Adobe?
here?
Don't care.
Well, you want to kind of say, like we always tend to, hey, did you have a backup? Are you backing up? And then in this case, there's some people had no iCloud backup. They had no local
This
backup.
is the perfect time to subscribe to iCloud.
Yeah, I feel for them, but I'm of two minds about it. I'm like, I want to say, you need to be in charge of your digital life, but there are some people who, just can't technically grasp what they need to do, and they just, carry on, without understanding that they're in dire straits if something bad happens.
So, Firefox has now fired essentially a quarter of their staff, or sorry, right-sized them.
Well, that's partially due to the next thing I wanted to mention, but yeah.
Messed this up, and now, well, there seems to be a lot of people switching over to Chromium for some reason, and not just Chromium, but Credge.
Credge?
Credge.
Sounds like something I want to get off my skin as fast as I can.
Well, it's something you might want to get off your computer as fast as you can, too. It's actually not that bad. I just am bitter.
Tell me, why not just run Chrome?
Because it's Credge.
I don't care.
It comes with your system. And if you don't have it, Microsoft will remind you every time you launch a browser.
There's that.
Yes, that's nice, isn't it? Not that I ever want to use Edge in general, but... I do it every time I fresh install a system. It's like I launch it that one time to download another browser.
Yeah, that.
I don't know. The new Edge ain't too bad.
It ain't horrible.
Chromium, but
isn't it just Chrome with the buttons moved around?
Chromium.
Yeah. So now it's compatible with SharePoint Online. It's supposed to Internet Explorer.
It's like Chrome with an inferior default search engine.
Yes. Yeah, I know I fixed that in GPO. We don't allow Bing.
Oh, you go to DuckDuckGo as well?
I think it's canoe.com or .ca.
Okay.
But you don't Bing it?
What's the sub thing that you're talking about here?
This, I already put it.
That's what we just did.
Yeah.
Okay.
The market share grab.
Yeah, although they've stopped the slide a little bit. I think that's what that article mentioned, that they were really cratering or really losing a lot of people to Credge or Edge Chromium or whatever. And then that kind of just stopped at the end of July and into August. So we'll have to see. But that was one of the reasons why they had to lay off a lot of people. They were losing a lot of eyeballs. I want to see Firefox stay around.
That would be nice. They were great back in the day. They first introduced tabs.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of things came up first.
Yeah.
Not all of them were successful, but they did a few things first.
They did a lot of stuff, and they were not afraid to try. And then Google comes around with Chrome and destroys Firefox.
Sure.
Yeah. Silverstone hits another power density milestone.
Look at this thing. Look at this.
It explodes
Do I
with
have to?
electrons.
This is, you don't have to. This is always interesting. I miss going to CES, or Computex and stuff, because it's always fun to visit Silverstone. Because they love their power density. Look at the power density here. 711 watts per liter on this power supply. 1,650 watts.
I've never heard this metric before.
Yeah. No, if you ever visit
it's great.
Silverstone, you will learn about power density. And let me go down here. Here we go. This is a
My
100...
favorite part is that they're using a liquid volume measurement for it, which just is perfect.
It's 180 millimeter deep, 1,650 watt power supply. That is very compact.
I see the numbers.
If you were to, like, 200 millimeters is kind of where your 1,200 watt EVGA power supplies are. You get into a really, really deep PSU where it can, 220 impinges on lower 3.5 inch drive bays. It's so big. And if you have full modular, that makes it even worse, because fully modular power supplies, of course, have that extra inch or so you have to negotiate when you're... It seems like a great idea, but really for ultra small form factor builds, sometimes you have to go non-modular.
Yeah, because you get to the turning radius is so much quicker from the exit of the supply, and it's bundled. So that actually makes things easier. Can I get this in an FSX yet?
I think they're always at the top of what you can get in SFX. I don't think they have anything above
800.
Is it 800 now? It was 750 the last time I looked.
Corsair was 750, which I just got a 750 Corsair SFX, which is great, by the way.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the Silverstone 800, and it was a toss-up, and I used a lot of Corsairs before, so based upon my good experience with Corsair, I went with them instead of Silverstone, although they did have 50 more watts.
My question is, has it actually become a reasonable replacement for the power supply for TIG or MIG welding?
I'll let you know.
Is it actually smaller and more power efficient?
I feel like you're kind of limited by the single 15 or 20 amp circuit you're connected to at that point.
Oh, I'm sure that they can figure something out about that, but it's a fair point.
I get quite a lot out of a standard 120, 115 volt out of the wall circuit with my welder in the garage.
Really?
Yeah, 135-ish amps according to the side of the box.
How? How is it not blowing the fuse?
Because it has caps and a coil in it, and it's not on all the time. That's
Oh,
what's
okay.
called
So
the
it's
duty
not
cycle.
pulling that much from the wall, but it's.
And you're
able
still
to
using a
provide
penny
that
as a
much.
fuse, right?
Okay.
Well, no. I just tape the switch open.
Ah!
Of course. You got to use good tape for that.
I just
If
take
it's
the circuit
straining
breaker
to
out of the
close.
circuit. I just wire straight to the bare metal from the street.
You just kind of tape it closed. It's all
Yeah,
good with
it's
that.
fine.
But it's the duty cycle. The duty cycle is you only have a few zip, 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 and
That's a
you don't
technical
you don't
term,
run
by
it
the way.
continuously. It is. You can quote me on that. Bzz, bzz, bzz.
Yep.
You should be wearing a mask, and I mean one for your eyes.
Right. Well,
at that
just
point.
everywhere. You're over your entire body.
I would. Yeah. Because it's
Yes,
like
Max. Speaking of things you shouldn't do,
Yeah.
like Lee arc welding with
No,
our
don't do
PC
that.
power.
but it's like staring at the sun. Or
That
Just
is
don't
just
do
so funny that we've arc welding with a power
Yeah,
supply
Lee
has
did
been
do
a
it.
joke. It's been a joke since probably 2010.
but Lee did it.
Yeah, but Lee.
Well, we've
Lee
been
finally
promising for
did
so
it.
long.
Yeah.
Good for him.
And our last story. Come to find out, Apple cannot kick all of the apps using Epic Unreal off of their store.
Hey, they tried. They really wanted to say no Unreal Engine for anyone.
We are going to chop you off at the knees and
Exactly.
like it.
All of you, out of the store. And
Instead, we're just going to limit your $1 billion,
that doesn't
application.
that's tis but a scratch.
And everybody's got Fortnite anyway. It's not like they're really getting a lot of new players out
Well,
there.
that isn't the problem with
No,
Fortnite.
it isn't.
Let's just bounce around here
You
because
can't buy the hat.
No.
well, okay, that isn't it either.
Seasons,
No, you still can if
campaigns,
you
whatever
got-
the new
It's
thing
the new
comes out.
content. It's
Yeah.
the new.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
here's the
chapter.
problem when the new chapter comes out, because everybody has to be updated on the same version, all that will lock out anyone on iOS at that point. It doesn't matter if you bought one of those $10,000 iPhones on eBay. When the new chapter launches, I think Thursday, tomorrow of this week is going to be it for those people, even if they already have it loaded on their phone.
I think the ex-Israeli Mossad security forces surrounding the Apple campus are going to work out when upset customers march on their campus.
It's okay. Just get an Android phone. If you want to play Fortnite, they have
Yeah,
instructions right on their website on how
Yep.
to sideload it. It's no big
All right.
deal. Just get an Android phone. If you're an avid gamer, you should probably have an Android phone anyway.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, the point of this is that they went before a judge who said, basically, if you want to pull that article up again, but basically, yeah, Epic, you pooped in your own place. That part is on you. Apple, you cannot kick everyone out. You must keep some of the sand in the sandbox. Just because these other developers used Epic's Unreal Engine doesn't make them guilty by association, and you can't throw them all out. So depends on whose side of the fence you're on. Some win, some loss on both sides. Epic didn't get what they wanted. Apple didn't get what they wanted. That's probably the right call.
Yeah. I would essentially agree with that. I mean, Apple has terms of service that they provide a service, and there is a charge for the service, and you have to follow their directions to do that. Otherwise, they don't have to host it, which they didn't
Right.
with Fortnite.
And it is not extraordinary from an industry perspective.
No.
It's fairly ordinary, as well as I think people forget how nasty, I guess that's one word to use, the terms used to be for software placement and software sell-through, how kind of the world was before the App Store kind of mechanism took hold, really. People don't remember how bad it was. And sure, 30% sounds like a lot now, but it used to be much worse.
Remember that old A-Team episode where the storekeeper is being, it'd be a shame if something horrible happened to your store. Maybe if you give us 30% of your income.
Oh yeah, the protection racket.
You'll be safe.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
It's like that, except you don't like the store owning either.
Yeah, but I mean, they're actually providing an actual service. It's not like when you download an app, Apple is hosting that, and
Correct.
it's their bandwidth, and it's what they're doing. It's not they're somehow, giving you a specific encrypted key to go to one of Fortnite servers to download stuff. No, they're hosting that stuff, and they curate it, and they make sure that the experience is good all around.
Yeah.
And I mean, that takes money. So
that's kind of an uncompensated for element of this, is that people trust it because it's kind of curated, and that people feel good about it. They're okay. Hey, anything I download from this is probably not going to hurt me or my phone. Like, stop. Probably, I said. Not that they.
And that goes for Google, for Android as well. Like the number of horrible frickin' apps that millions of people have downloaded that were official.
It does happen, but people feel good about it, and that costs a lot of money. I have a company that has put several apps in the App Store over a period of time, and we've gotten stuff kicked back at us. They do look at it. I'm only relating this from personal experience. Stuff gets kicked back. There are real people on the other side that Apple has to pay for to review this stuff and nitpick over things. So it does cost them money. That was all I was trying to say.
By the way, this is the Apple apology portion of our podcast this week.
Yeah. That's part of my job description.
Don't get me wrong.
You told me it was part of my job description.
I think 30% is pretty onerous for what they actually do. And I think that the amount of money that they're making, they could pass the savings on to the smaller developers as well as consumers. But that's not going to happen because they like their $196 billion in cash, and they would like to grow that up even more for some ungodly reason I don't understand, because that's not working capital. But
it's $2 trillion valuation is never enough.
It's freaking inertia.
Yeah. So anyhow, should we move on to picks of the week before we get too much deeper?
I just wanted to check real quick to see what the cut was for Google Play.
It's 30.
I think it's
30%.
the same.
30%, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
And do you know where that 30% came from?
Tell us.
Apple?
It's like pay-per-view stuff back in the 80s with it was the 30% was a common charge with something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but hosting like videotapes or something. I can't. It was archaic. It was archaic, but it was industry recognized at the time, and it's never changed. Even though technology and serving and all that has improved dramatically, it's always been 30%. It's bizarre.
So
I've noticed something else too, by the way. Don't we pick up apps now in our app stores, Android or iOS or whatever, and go $5.95? Oh my God, that's exorbitant. That's so pricey. Who wants that?
I'd rather that than some.
Then
kind
I go
of
buy my
premium
$7 Starbucks coffee.
Exactly, Brett.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That's when Brett opens up his, current gen MacBook Pro in the coffee shop, and it's just like $5.95. Well, it's money that I have, so I guess I'll just buy that real quick.
I did just order an Apple refurb.
You did?
Well, one is coming to the house. It will not be mine. But one is coming to the house.
Sure. Yep. Sure.
It's a 16. It's nice.
Yeah.
It'll be nice.
All right. Anyway, my pick of the week, not a shock. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is pure magic.
Nice.
It's really, really impressive what they do and how well they deliver the experience to you. It's not perfect, but they are improving things, and it's going to be getting better and better, and there's lots of fun little Easter eggs, whether they wanted to do that or not. There's now these two giant monolithic towers that shouldn't be there, one in Melbourne and one in the middle of Italy. And it's kind of surreal to go there and visit them after you've been visiting like New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, all these other places with, normal architecture. Suddenly it's just really interesting to go there and see something so out of place. I mean, someone described it as eldritch, and I can see exactly what they mean. But yeah, the technology is fantastic. You can go on a world tour, visit places you've never seen, and it does it pretty well. I mean, obviously, a lot of the architecture is all AI kind of based, in that they've taken a lot of these screenshots. Well, not screenshots. Sorry, these satellite imagery and run
the video and not you, Josh.
Yeah.
People are gonna have to watch this later. I think you're sending out the audio from the video that you're playing versus Josh.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Hold on.
Awesome.
This is the first time we've done a podcast, so
Yes.
Pretty much.
Josh,
First time.
take 2 on that pick. I'm sorry.
the world tour.
So anyway,
he was on a freaking roll too.
yeah, I was. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 can take you anywhere in the world because of satellite imagery, AI doing its best to make that into actually 3D objects. And there are actually areas that are curated by artists. So when you go there, it's much more accurate. There's still some issues around that, and they're improving that algorithm. We talk about the monoliths that these 240-story tall buildings that just seemingly come out of nowhere that are really fun to fly around and eldritch in origin, and yeah, fantastic stuff. I started with the $59 version and I upgraded to the premium deluxe because you do get a lot more, and you should be getting more stuff in the future. And I just had so much fun with it that I just ended up spending the extra money after I originally bought it. I should have just done it right off the bat, but I didn't know how good it would be. And it was fantastic. And I'm still playing it. And I'm enthused about going different places and checking stuff out. And the terrain and the photography is I mean, the photos just, it's perfect. I grew up in a town that had this kind of mountain outside of it that had this really distinctive white incursion geologically through it. And so I'm flying around this little town, and sure enough, they've got that perfectly represented. So obviously they're getting topo imagery, topo maps, applying the actual satellite imagery to it, and having really, really, really good looking terrain and cities and towns and natural occurrences out in the wild. I mean, it's great. It's well done. It's
How
well
close
worth the money.
is real time? I understand there's some aspect of real time weather.
The weather is
yeah.
supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's you
incredible.
can go and fly into the hurricane right now. Keith
No.
from WCCC Tech, he just posted a screenshot on Twitter before we started that he found the hurricane.
Seriously?
And it looks like he's flying into a hurricane.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah,
That is crazy.
yeah.
Did you see the picture that somebody posted of I think it was the XP Hill, or was it the Win 10?
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah,
No, it
that's
was
pretty
the
cool.
old default screenshot.
Yeah, yeah.
I can
Magic
actually
Hill.
probably find that relatively quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's someplace. It's in Sonoma County in California.
It
But
was
they landed there
pretty cool
and
looking.
took a picture, and it's brown right now. It's not green.
Well, it's seasonal, so
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. So it's cool.
Bliss.
Yes, I'm pretty sure you could ride a hurricane into the hurricane.
Haha.
All right, Jeremy, your pick.
Speaking of games, although perhaps not quite as impressive as your pick, I've got a real problem with Madruga's Works. This is a gaming studio that put out a game called Dawn of Man, which is it reminds me of the old city builders like Caesar and Cleopatra, where you've got your god and you're building your little city, but they're starting it in like the Paleolithic era. So you've got about 6 people, 2 tents, and a campfire. And there's mammoths and shite that wants to roam around and eat you, and you'd like to be able to eat them, but I mean, all you got's a couple of sticks, and that kind of sucks if you're going to go after a mammoth with it. So you just sort of sit there and watch them work away. You give them tasks, various different things. You can't gather water. You've got to figure out how to build pottery and gather water. But it's a lot simpler than Civ. And it's just constantly playing. So you just sort of sit back and you watch it. And, by the time you've figured out how to sort of attach flint to a spear and are going after cave lions, you're ridiculously invested in these little tiny people that don't really pay attention to what you're telling them. And I'm too bloody old to stay up until 3 a.m. But there's been a couple of times where I've just been doodling around after a hard day at work and doing a couple of things. After dinner, I sit down and I finally look behind me, and it's bloody well almost 3 in the frickin' morning. So if you're into the old sort of, and they've also got in Planet Base, where I think you're setting up a colony on another planet. I don't recall if it's Mars or not, but it's the same sort of deal. But if you're in sort of low maintenance, just sort of sitting back, watching them do your things, eventually, getting to the point where it's like, okay, these people are healthy enough and they've got some stuff. We might go and take out a mammoth, collect all of that food, collect all those skins, the bones, come back, make more stuff, expand a little bit further. Shit, this one got an infection. Not much you can do about that in the Paleolithic era. And it's just low stress, a lot of fun, and the way that they've done it is very rewarding. So, and they're usually on special. I don't know if, currently right now, I think you can get the both of them for about $40. It's a hell of a lot of fun, but be careful because you might just end up with one more turn significantly longer than you intended to.
Right. Brett.
If you're afflicted like I am with ears that are out of Apple spec, you might need these. And this is, I'm holding it up to the camera, but he's showing a picture of it anyway, which is cool. I have like an ear that will not hold an Apple EarPod, and it just falls out. So these things actually work. The only issue is that they, if I said they don't have quite the same penetration, would that be okay to say? You know what I mean?
I think we'll allow it.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
but it's the motion of the ocean, not the size of the pod.
Right. Exactly. So these things are a real EarPod saver. I have been walking along and have had to pick them off of sidewalks, streets, store floors, whatever, and this is really working just great.
That sounds really disgusting, Brett.
Yeah. I don't put them directly back in my ears. I clean them after that, but yeah. So this is if you want to use this sort of thing and you have an ear that is out of Apple spec, and I only have one ear that is out of Apple spec, the other one is within reasonable Apple spec, these will potentially keep your earpods in your head.
So what you're saying is if a product has a flawed design, then
An Apple
you
product.
can buy a strange-looking device that makes it semi-functional.
I bought these hoping that due to the changeable ear fitment pieces that I could find one that would actually work for me.
Now, do these work with standard AirPods or just Pro?
These hoops are for Pro, but they make them for the standard ones too.
Okay. So it really won't help it fit in your ear if you have standard ones because you don't have the different fitment bits there.
You could pull the different fitment bits and still alter those. I like these because you can still get to the squeezable sides.
No, but what you don't understand is that regular AirPods don't have those little rubber bits.
Yes,
so it's
I know that.
Just the plastic part. So if your ear doesn't
Yes.
hold it, how's this going to help? Because it's going to mash the AirPod against the side of your ear uncomfortably all day.
No, it just hangs it off the side of your ear, or where the loop goes around your ear. Okay. So it could potentially still work for you if you have a problem.
Yeah, you can do, look, it says no interruption. No interruption of noise cancellation button.
That's correct. You can still squeeze the little buttons on either side.
That's nice. So it's not just giving the AirPods capacitive and like touch input constantly whenever they're connected.
No, it is not.
That would be probably a design flaw, I guess.
Well, that's what makes doing something like this so tricky. And I was happy to find something that would actually what can I use to keep these in my freaking head?
Well,
I wanted so much to enjoy them.
Oh, well.
Because you spent so much on them.
Yeah.
I actually got them at a reasonable deal, educational discount a while ago. It's like $100 off or something like that.
And Josh's Kratos probably still costs less and will last him for the rest of his life.
They will.
I like these.
And they're harder to
review
lose
samples,
because they have wires.
so-
Really?
Yeah.
Kratos sent you a review sample? That's nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, a couple years back. Anyhow, well, you know what? That is our show. That is all we have written down. We're here at 9:33 my time. We've been recording this for about an hour and 20 minutes. So for us, that's really damn good. And
Yes.
once Sebastian edits things down, it's going to be even more palatable.
It's going to be 22 minutes.
At least.
I'm hoping at this point that all the audio is there, and then I have extensive, like all of these like little screen captures I was doing are horrible. So
I should have hit record. I feel stupid now. I should have recorded this.
It's like
too.
this stuff. It wasn't like lined up. It wasn't centered. I wasn't scrolling it smoothly. It's like last week.
And you were giving me a hard time about not centering my burger picture.
Oh
No, I said it wasn't centered on my end. I'm sorry if you misinterpreted that, Josh.
I
'cause
did.
didn't have
I took that
Twitter
personally.
centered. No, I didn't have Twitter.
I had to
centered.
mute for a good 5 minutes so I can cry myself.
But it's okay because I was
into my-
muted anyway, so nobody could hear any of my inane commentary for the first 20 minutes.
you were. We just stood here essentially awkwardly in silence while you talked and just looked dumb, dumber than normal.
Yeah, I was
It's
going to
okay.
say.
You know, if this ends up working, we'll have the podcast. If it doesn't, hey, enjoy the live stream, and we'll try the proper numbered podcast thing next time.
Yeah.
I discovered I cannot do this with one PC and 2 monitors. It has to be 2 PCs and at least 4 monitors. That's how insane this is if you're not using vMix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason a Skyposaurus used to be a thing.
Yeah. 4
Yeah.
monitors, outputs, inputs, audio switching, all that stuff anyway.
Hey, Jim
So-
did this with external devices, mixer, right? He had some mixer going on, as well as vMix, and that he was pulling everything together.
I thought it was just
And
vMix.
separate- I thought he had an external device of some sort. Maybe it was just for him. Maybe it was for his mic.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
he has XLR.
Yep.
So he was doing some balancing on his end.
Yep, he had the Scarlett.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's our show for this week. Thank you for joining us. We'll try to be again here. Well, we'll try to be here again next week. We don't know what all is going to happen, and life is very uncertain because it is 2020.
Yeah.
Thanks again for taking your time to listen to us and maybe even watch us. And for that, we're very, very sorry.
I'm going to say grateful, but yes, sorry is more
No.
accurate.
We're
Thank
All
you,
right.
Josh, for spearheading this.
Yeah,
whatever
thank
this
you,
was.
Josh, for stepping up. And it was a veteran move, you know. Josh is that reliable guy that could just come
I
in when
have
you need
done
him.
this once or twice before in the
Exactly,
past
Exactly.
12 years I've been.
Josh Walrath is the Brian Hoyer of the PC Per podcast right now.
okay.
And I'm like Cam Newton fighting for a starting job, but I'm really not qualified. Just some sports analogies there for 0 people who care.
Well, there's one person I was helping today tried to convince me it was a brilliant phrase. He was voluntold to do a task.
That became popular about a decade ago when I was in
and
management.
apparently she wants to make it come back.
There's some phrases from my previous life as a retail manager. I spent a decade doing this, where every time some new self-help book or something would come out, some new phrases would pop up, and it would just get used ad nauseum. It was like every paragraph I had to incorporate this somehow. Actioning stuff. And when people started talking about speak to that, like, I can't really speak to that. Like, do you know what that means? Like, you mean, I don't know.
Well,
I'm not
she's
going to get down that road.
They're
It's
speaking,
it's
so
a better
obviously.
way of saying talk about.
I'm
I
not
can't
really.
talk about that.
Yeah, I really
Up
can't
to
say anything
speed.
intelligent about that. I have no idea what that means. No,
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
now,
I
but
can't
now
really
we've got
speak to that.
irrespective.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not a word,
You
so
stop.
stop it. Yeah.
I heard irregardless a lot.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
irregardless, that's the other
every
one.
bit is bad.
Mhm,
Or worse.
mhm.
Yep.
Anyway.
But it's all just a polite way of saying, I hate you, you are stupid, and I don't want to spend any more time with you. But doing it diplomatically.
Hey, I forgot all about this, but because I was so lost in badly producing the show. Earlier, one of the very first comments when we went live was a question about PCIe bandwidth in the new 20 or 3090. So I think that'll be kind of interesting when that comes out, is actually to test that and see, okay, have we now reached the stage with GPU horsepower where it actually does hold you back to be on like a by 8 PCI 3
Yeah.
connection?
Because
Me-
even top end stuff, you're only seeing 1 to 2%
Yeah.
lower in going from by 16 to by 8 3.0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've read those rumors as well that the 3090 actually sees a boost by going 4.0.
Yeah,
And-
I don't believe it.
Well, okay, let's take a step back and think that there potentially could be an unreleased technology that NVIDIA has not talked about that is integrated into the 3000 series.
Aliens.
Well, I mean, think of back in the day, AGP2X and
Yeah.
sideband addressing and
Mhm.
and the other features that were supposed to really help get around some of the memory issues. Well, there
Bank
could be
switching.
some compute issues and memory access things that it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, maybe they have integrated something in there that will utilize that extra bandwidth effectively, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
Would it be a dumb question to ask whether these will be 3.0 or 4.0 cards?
They're going to be 4.0.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Much to Intel's dismay.
Ouch.
Well,
Yep.
3.0 by 16 will probably be enough. But
It's going to do.
Oh, it was
good.
relevant to the question. That's why I asked.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's some, thought that there's a 5 to 7% increase in overall performance going PCIe 4.0 with these cards, which is not insignificant.
No.
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
so-
that would be enough to gain a gold award if you were 7% faster than a previous.
Exactly.
exactly.
So there's going to be some interesting testing going on.
Maybe
On a lot of
maybe it's
Ryzen
time-
platforms.
Yeah, maybe it's time to move GPU test platforms to Ryzen. Very
been
few,
some
if
question.
any, websites do this. They're all on Intel because Intel single-threaded 1080p game testing, all that stuff. But really, that's only especially helpful for CPU reviews because that's the only way you can show scaling. When I started, at the end of 2018 as like the EIC here, I thought let's just do 1440 because that's kind of like a nice middle ground. It's like the enthusiast monitor resolution of choice for the last several years, even though it's a
Oh,
very
sure.
small percentage of overall users. But still, more people are on 1440 than 4K by
Yeah.
far.
Yeah.
And it takes the CPU a little bit further out of the equation. But at that point, you could use AMD or Intel. You're not really going to see a difference. Except maybe the PCIe 4.
Yeah,
Change
I mean,
the
you're
Not
gonna
impossible.
see AMD crowing to the moon if there is a difference.
Oh,
even
if
with
you're right,
NVIDIA
6 to
hardware.
7%. Oh yeah, AMD
Yeah.
is just gonna
They're
spike
gonna like
through the
we're
roof
the
of sales.
premier platform for cutting edge high end graphics,
Yeah,
and they will.
I mean, our motherboards,
Be
not our graphics
correct.
cards.
Yeah, they're not talking about their X 5700X. So,
Right.
all right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here.
Okay.
Good night.
I ran out of beer.
Uh-oh.
Oh, gosh.
That's a horrible thing.
I'd give you one, but you're far away.
I am far away. Maybe if
Yeah,
you just
can't-
spit real hard into your microphone.
Can't give a beer through the internet. Still can't punch someone through the internet
Yeah,
True.
these are
It's been
probably all
tried.
good things.
Two problems that need to be addressed.
very
Right.
quickly.
I'm stopping the recording, and I think unless anybody has anything else, I'm just going to stop the stream too. Thank you, everyone.